you are listening to NPE Stories. This is a podcast where NPEs can share their story. I'm your host, Lily, and I found out I was an NPE a few months ago. NPE is a term that stands for Not Parent Expected or Non-Paternal Event. This means that one or more of our parents are not who we believe them to be. NPE Stories is a podcast where NPEs can share their story of what their original family was like, how they found out they were an NPE, and what their journey has been like since the day they found out. Welcome to episode 6, where today I am talking to Jesse. Hi, Jesse.
Hello there.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
I know I talked with you earlier this week, and you were having a bit of a rough week. So thank you so much for being willing to talk with me about this.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So let's get into this. Tell me from the beginning what your original family was like and what it was like growing up.
Yeah. My original family, it was interesting to say the least. I'll never say it was bad. I had a very loving mother and was very loved by the family I had. The father I grew up with wasn't always the kindest. My parents did split up and divorce, and then they actually remarried at one point, and then divorced again. So neither time was really a good experience with him. He kind of always favored my brother, which we later discover is his true biological child, and abusive a little bit. So it was I always kind of felt out of place. And I didn't feel like him and I really ever connected or had a connection. And looking back on it now, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but, I just felt like I was never really accepted by him. I stunted myself in coming out because of him. He wasn't a very accepting man. And, unfortunately hid a lot of my life because of him. When I turned 18, I kind of got out of the house and we more or less lost contact after that. And it's a mutual thing. No love loss. So yeah, it was a little hard. I'm not going to lie. A lot of times of having to pack up and move with my mom into a new aunt's house or a new friend's house. He wasn't really the most supportive person around.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
So were you mostly raised by your mom, or did they have a joint custody?
Yeah. Anytime I think back to my childhood and any good memories, it's always her. I was primarily raised by her. I was what you would call a mama's boy, my best friend. I love her to death. So she was always there for me. And I think after their first divorce, it kind of signaled something to me. I was at an impressionable age, so it kind of made me realize like he's not good. But I was a little hurt and upset when she got back with him. And to see that nothing had changed was a little hurtful. And then, after their second split, that was kind of it for him.
Okay. And you have one brother?
I do, yes. 2 years younger than me. Didn't really grow up the closest. We're quite polar opposites, but I chalk that up to sibling rivalry. But right now we're closer than we've ever been, actually. He's been informed of my whole situation and everything, and I never would have imagined the support that he's given me. And so it's been really great.
Oh, nice. So let's get into finding out how you found out you were an NPE.
Yeah. So last Christmas, Christmas of 2018, or 2017, I should say, I took a DNA test just for fun. I've been a member of Ancestry for over 10 years. I've always been fascinated by genealogy and history and all that. So I took the DNA test, and my mom started to get a little weird. She was texting me, we need to talk, and I want to see you to talk. And I don't like that kind of cryptic conversation. So I kind of put it out there. I was like, let's get this done. I don't know what's going on, but you're kind of leading up to something that I'm unaware of. So she drove out here, a 6-hour drive from where she lives, one night and sat me down. And it's about a 3-hour conversation, about an hour and a half of it centered on her and, why she is the way she is and how she grew up not really enjoying life and all these things. And it was a little, looking back on it now, all about her. And then there was this side in there of, just a small chance that you might get your results back and it's not going to be the father you think. And I was kind of in shock. I didn't know how to process that. And she explained, she was very young, under 18, and it was a stupid drunken evening, and that was that. She claims, though, to have not really remembered anything about the evening. And what was kind of the start of a really dark year for me was she alluded that this was an unconsensual situation. So I kind of, went into this journey with this ugly picture painted of some man out there that I had no idea about. Um, Later find out that's not really true or accurate, but I think she was kind of scaring me into not starting a search. So the timing couldn't have been any more bizarre. That next morning, she stayed over, and that next morning, I woke up and you got my email from Ancestry saying your results are in. And I got it, and to see the Italian and Irish in me that I know I don't have was a little concerning. And then I connected with a first cousin that I have no idea who he was. So it was an uncomfortable morning with her. I didn't tell her I got my results. She left. And I was kind of made to feel after she left that, like, we should talk about this, which isn't really fair. It's something that
No.
kind of rocks your world as it is. And then to be told that, you're the product of this dark, dirty secret, but you got to keep it to yourself because she'd be too embarrassed if family found out.
Yeah.
So that was a hard thing to go through. But I did connect with this first cousin. And I reached out to him immediately. Who are you? I'm very confused. And he was about 20 years older than me. So couldn't figure out the whole cousin situation and stuff. He was adopted, knew nothing of his birth parents. So that started a very weird, investigative search that, every day him and I would check in with each other. Did you see anyone else pop up? Have you talked to so-and-so? Try to kind of piece things together. He then ended up doing a 23andMe. And I had already done that at that point where I had connected with another first cousin. And I thought there was some funny similarities between the two of them. The other first cousin I found on 23andMe, he knew of his birth dad, but was kind of estranged from him since early childhood, and sent me his obituary. So he knew of his birth dad, but there was no communication or contact or anything. Lo and behold, these two guys connect as half brothers.
Mm.
So yeah, on top of my own situation, it was a very interesting. I discovered so much about this family it's fascinating, really. So we ended up finding two other brothers of them only through social media. But I've said from day one, I'm never going to reach out to anyone that's not on these sites because they didn't ask for this information. So kind of respected their privacy and stayed back. But come to find out, they had two other brothers. So there's now these four, in my mind, first cousins that I'm building and piecing this giant family puzzle together and trying to see how I fit in, and I just couldn't make it work. So I did this for about a year, and it was a little obsessive. I was in some not healthy places, 2 to 6 hours a day, I'd say, on these sites, just digging and digging and digging. And it was a really depressing and hard experience. My husband, God bless him, for staying with me. Being that I couldn't talk about this, he took the brunt of everything, and it was a really, really hard time. I'm not going to lie. But I ended up working with a genealogical researcher in the end, who I gave her my information. And I want to say within 24 hours, she came out and said, here he is. And
Wow.
come to find out, it was one of the other two brothers that weren't on these sites. And we just found through social media and such. Basically, Ancestry kind of correlates everyone in stages of cousins, and that can mean so many things. So it turned out that these two guys I've originally been talking with were my half uncles, and then one of the other brothers was my father. And I remember where I was
Oh.
I remember where I was when I found this out. My heart kind of sank, and it was bizarre. From day one, I said all I want to do is see a photo and be able to look at someone and say, "Wow, that's me." And she sent photos and side by side comparisons of him and I at the same ages, and it was the most surreal feeling and experience in the world. It was so bizarre.
Wow. I have goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were already talking with your birth father, but you thought it was as like a first cousin?
No, he was one of the two brothers that I hadn't communicated to because I found through social media.
I got it. Okay.
So I
Yes.
had his name, I had his Facebook account, everything since that summer, and I've had his info for 6 months, but thought he was just another cousin and
Yeah.
wasn't. It was very bizarre to discover that.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes,
Because
because you have you're in your mind you're like this is how I'm related to this person and
yep,
in fact he's your dad.
yeah, and I never I kind of beat myself up over it because looking back on it now, I had him right under my nose all that time, and the one Facebook photo he had, I didn't see any resemblance. So it's so funny now looking back on this. But yeah, um, I had the tree built out, and the tree was 100% correct, and I have almost 100 people from this side of the family in this tree now, but I couldn't figure out where I could fit in, and it was yeah, really crazy.
So you have this side by side this picture that you got from a genealogical researcher.
Hmm.
What did you do with that information?
Immediately I just started crying. It was a really bizarre feeling. Um, I thought about it for a few days. I knew I wanted to reach out. During all this time, during this year, my mother and our relationship became a little more strained. Every time I talked to her, her story would change a little. And then she started saying things and reacting in ways that's not the mom I know. It was a little irrational. And she was more or less emotionally manipulating me and kind of scaring me into not continuing on with this journey and this search. So I hid a lot from her, but I knew I kind of wanted to get his truth and I wanted to hear from him. At the end of the day, I don't care what happened. It was 34 years ago that I wasn't involved with, so I don't care. But I kind of wanted to hear from him. Um, so I did end up sending a letter, certified mail too, so I wanted to make sure it got there. I sent a letter down to him the end of January this year, and I went about 5 weeks not hearing anything. So I was elated to find him and have all this information, and now I'm back into this dark hole of feelings and emotions and thinking all kinds of terrible things about this person. Why wouldn't you respond? Um, but yeah, long story short, his mail got sent to the neighbor's house, and where they live, I guess, is a very snowbird kind of situation. So the neighbors weren't around for a month, and he contacted me via email one day, and again, my heart just dropped to see his name pop up, and it was wild. We had our first phone call March 2nd, talked for about 2.5 hours, and he's telling me, how he informed his wife and his daughter, a sister I have that I didn't know about. He called everyone in the family, and they started telling their kids as young as 11 years old. So, within just 24 hours, he's already opened himself up to
Oh.
to me and open the family up to me. And that phone call was incredible. I still won't ever forget it. He just had a way of comforting me, and it's a man I don't even know, and we
Oh.
had deep parts of the conversation where we talk about life and then quick, what's your favorite food? Like it was really just a really special moment. Um, and then, so 2 months later, Cinco de Mayo weekend, we flew down to meet them. And it was just an incredible experience. So crazy to look at someone and see myself in them now, and the connection we have now. It's still a very new relationship. I don't fully know him, but genetics are a wild thing. I just feel so connected to him. It's really amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's that's awesome. I love to hear that. And how scary that first you send this certified mail and in the one case it like goes to a neighbor and you don't
exactly,
hear. You're like, what kind of person is this to not respond? And here all
exactly.
along, immediately, I'm sure it sounds like he welcomed you immediately into his family.
Yeah, he said he was tired one night, and his wife had brought him the mail, and he went downstairs kind of in and out of sleep and saw the letter and read it, and he was so confused, and he read it again, and he thought it was one of those like Nigerian print schemes where
Yes.
someone's wanting money, and so he left the letter there and went back to bed, and his wife saw it, and he said he woke up and she's just hovering over the bed staring at him saying, you want to tell me anything? So uh,
Wow.
kind of came out quick. But no, she's been incredible with this all as well. I have a sister who's 19 years younger than me, who I worried about at that age too. That could be a weird thing to kind of find out about, and she's been amazing. And about 2 weekends ago, actually, they had a little mini family reunion not too far from here, where I got to finally meet everyone. A grandmother I didn't know I had, aunts, uncles, cousins galore, and it was a really incredible weekend.
It was a good family reunion.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And you have, okay, so you now have a new half sister.
Hmm.
Okay. and you still have well, I guess you found out he's a half brother instead of a full brother, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And you said he knows about all of this and he's supported you in this? How did that go?
He did. So about a month or so ago, I started to feel really guilty that I'm more or less hiding these people and continuing the trend of secrets and lies that my mother was doing. And I just wasn't fair that they opened up so much to me and accepted me with no questions. And here I am, hiding them. So I started to open up a little more and tell friends and such. But I did end up filling my brother in. Actually, to be fair, my mother was the first to tell him. But he called me immediately after and kind of confirmed all the feelings I had had for a while, that she's acting irrationally and he's not understanding because her story keeps changing, and he's even seeing through the lies. So it was good to kind of hear that. I felt a little validated. I don't want to think anything ill of my mother, but
Yeah.
it was good to have that support there. And then the next weekend, him and his wife drove out and spent an entire day here, just wanting to hear about everything and hear about my dad and that family and stuff. And again, we weren't always the closest growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe a text here and there 3 times a year. We'll see each other at Christmas, and that's it. And it works for us. But to have him come out of the blue and just sit here for hours and listen to that was really something special. And
Yeah,
I would say that we're closer now than ever.
that's great.
Yeah.
And now you don't have to answer this, but how are things going with you and your mother?
So not well. I'm going to throw in Facebook in here because it's such a petty social media thing now. It's crazy how much it can really interfere with your lives. But um, I wanted to kind of open up and be able to tell friends and some family that I was trusting of about this. And quite honestly, I was sick of going out to dinner and someone saying, "How are you doing?" and having to start at the beginning and give this hour-long spiel of everything. So I put up a very simple, sweet post, opened up, and I did everything I could with privacies and securities to kind of keep her hidden from it and anyone connected to her so that they wouldn't see it, to protect her. I know she's embarrassed. I know she's feeling certain ways about it. But long story short, I apparently missed a person, and she found out, and she was extremely upset. And this was just about 2 weeks ago. And again, just irrational behavior, the way she's talking to me, the things she's saying. It's not the mom I remember growing up with. And it's saddening. It is. But we haven't really spoken in 2 weeks at all. And unfortunately, I'm at a place where I do think I need a little break from her. Now that this has happened to me, you kind of question everything. You look back on every memory and every minute of your life and rethink it. Things start to make sense. And at the same time, things are a little more confusing in some ways. But, I feel like I was kind of blinded. I was that mama's boy. I believed anything she would say. And not to say she's not a trustworthy person, but now I'm looking back and kind of questioning some things. And I think space right now is the best thing. Um, Even to this day, she hasn't truly expressed how happy she is for me. And I've tried to remove him from the equation and say, I have a sister, I have a grandmother, I have an 11-year-old cousin who texts me, like, just really sweet people and really amazing people, and she doesn't want to hear it, because it's all about her, more or less. So it's been hard, but after a year and a half of this, I'm finally in a happy place, and I have to put myself first. And I can't do that right now with her in the picture. So we're kind of keeping our distance for now. And, hopefully this is a short-lived situation, but who knows?
Yeah. And nothing is wrong with time and distance, especially when we need it just for our own healing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about what you're going through. So many of us, I think, can identify with the mom factor, which can be, in some of our cases, painful, hurtful.
Yeah.
And yeah, so thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry for
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And as for the Facebook post, I'm finding so many more of us. We need to let our close friends and family know, like, hey, we're going through something. We need
Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, instead of going through a whole hour-long spiel every time you meet with someone, because if there was a death in our family, we would be surrounded by support. And in a way, we are going through a sort of grief process in its stages.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you're reaching out, and I hope you're getting support through your it sounds like through your new family and your friends, your husband, your loved ones.
Yeah. And I'm sure you're aware of this NPE Facebook group, and for anyone listening, I hope they are aware or discovering it shortly. But when I joined, I was a little turned off by that group because so much of it was, I don't want to say so much of it, but there was this common thread of hating on the moms.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was still lying to myself, that I wasn't allowed to feel a little hurt and betrayed. And I kept thinking, like, I couldn't imagine feeling that way. I don't know why people would be saying that. And it's a shame, but now looking at it, I'm right there in that boat, and I don't want to say that it's always the mother's fault or whatever. And I totally understand why she did lie and why she would have hid it. I probably, in her position at the time, I couldn't imagine making that decision. Um, so I get it, but at the end of the day, it's sad when it's about them, when your own mother is more concerned about her embarrassment or whatever than your own happiness.
Yeah. Yeah, really. So, all right. Tell me a little bit more about where you stand with your new family. You've had the family reunion. You have met up with your birth father. You said on a couple occasions.
Yeah, so that was the second time getting to see him. Yeah, I mean, everyone's so open. They talk so much, which is so foreign to me. But I could tell him one thing, and then the next day or within hours, I'm hearing from his brother, my grandmother, like all these people. Just so it's really amazing the level of communication and trust and honesty they all have with one another. But I'm getting to see a cousin in 2 weeks. They're coming up to the area to visit. I hope to get to see my father soon. We're not really in the closest state, so
Okay.
yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's really, really incredible. They're such amazing people. It was kind of interesting for this family reunion. We stayed in a house with them. Um, and I was a little uncomfortable at first. I really wanted to stay at a hotel, but they were pushing it. And, to stay at a household of people that A, you don't know, but B, it's such a unique situation. Um, Kind of made me nervous, but it felt like family. Within 5 minutes of being there, all the nerves were gone. It was really, really incredible.
Oh,
And
that's
I
so
would say
cool.
that from them as well. I think some of them were maybe a little nervous. I know my grandmother was very emotional about this whole situation, to know she had another grandchild out there she didn't know about. Um, but it was so relaxed and really so incredible.
Wow. That's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be really nervous to be in a shared house with
Yeah.
a stranger, but really it's your dad, it's your birth father. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. You guys connected like that.
Yeah. And we're in an interesting place too, in terms of communication. I would say before we met, it's hard to read things through text or a phone call, and you don't want to say the wrong thing. I think there's still a little fear of rejection on my end. Like, I don't want him to think I'm coming in with all this baggage of my mother and such. So I kind of hold back some things from him from time to time, and he gets me in ways that I never would have imagined. And it's so funny, it's obviously it's had its highs and lows, and more so recently when I'm having a bad day or something with my mother, and I just kind of hold it to myself. He always chimes in with that call or that text, and it's strange to think like we're connected in that way. It's really, really amazing. But no, he's been such a great voice, and it's still funny that to this day he defends her. He
Mm.
only saw her that one time, but he's a really good voice of reason and has been really great at helping me kind of check my emotion and making me comfortable with all of it, and reminding me that I'm the priority in the situation and he's there for me 100%, but she is your mother. So says so much about his character that even through all this, he's still trying to like get her side across and make sure that I'm very aware, of why she might be feeling a certain way.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Trying to be so respectful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. Like you said, speaks so much to his character.
Yeah, for sure.
And has anyone spoken with your birth certificate father since
He
this?
so he was notified. Yes, my brother did sit him down one night and tell him they still have a relationship. And again, this is a man that we haven't spoken in, I'd say, 14 years. I got
Oh,
a
wow.
random Facebook message from him 2 years ago on my birthday saying happy birthday, nonsense talk, and then I love you. And I just felt very uncomfortable by that, because if that's someone you loved, you wouldn't go that long not reaching out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, so he blew my mind. He's said, okay, what can you do? Apparently, he assumed it when I was growing up, but never wanted to question it and just kind of let it go. And now looking back, I get that. I felt like he didn't treat me the same as my brother, and maybe there was some anger there that he was holding on to, something that he wanted to question and didn't. So maybe it was taken out on me, but he says, I was there for him. I raised him. He's still my son. If he ever wanted to have communication, I'd be open to that. But he kind of assumed and knew. So it's funny that, I felt uncomfortable and kind of not connected to him. And I felt like something was off, but there was never a reason to question it. And he even figured too. So in all this, like, I feel between myself, my birth certificate father, and my bio father, the three of us all have rights to be upset or hurt or betrayed in some ways. But going back to my mother, it's kind of all about her right now. And it's amazing that someone can take such a situation and twist it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel your feelings, and you and all those other men, they all have every right to feel upset and or betrayed.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are not dirty laundry, right? We're not a
Exactly.
secret. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that Facebook group, the DNA NPE
Hmm.
Facebook group, has been a lifesaver at times. And at times I'm like, okay, I need to stop scrolling, take a break.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
I'm definitely in a much better place than I was a year and a half ago. And I even look back on it, and I, I'm I'm blown away by how I even got through that. And there were days I would just cry and not know what to do, and question, am I ever even going to find him? So it's really, I feel like I am in a good place. I feel like I am still healing, not fully healed, because it's still in my 30s. It's hard now to have this great relationship with this man, but not also feel hurt that I missed out on so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that group's been very, very helpful, and reading everyone's stories and opening up, and it's been really, really great to have there. Even in my good place now, it still helps me kind of heal just reading what others are experiencing.
Yeah, and it's really helpful that you're sharing this story in an audio format, in a podcast.
Hmm.
Uh, it's nice to be able to listen to these stories. It's not we can't all sometimes sit in front of a laptop and keep scrolling and reading, even though we want to keep hearing NPE stories. So thank you for being able to do this via podcast as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I want someone out. I didn't know about these groups or anything, and when I was going through this, I felt like such an outcast, and that I've never heard of this before. No one would understand. So to know there's these groups and podcasts and everything, I really hope anyone going through this can hear this and then feel, a little hopeful in any situation.
I think they will. And you have a lot of experience that I don't have. It sounds like you've been a detective and used what did you call it? A genealogical researcher,
Yeah,
right?
she's
Okay.
retired FBI, and
Oh, cool.
her resources were definitely better than my Google attempt. So, yeah, and again, within 24 hours, she laid it out, and I even asked her. I said, "Could you just make sure there's any way it couldn't be anyone else? Are you 100% certain?" And I mean, she spelled it out down to the scientific level, of the how you're connected, percentage of DNA, and all that. So she was so helpful, so helpful.
Oh, that's going to be important. I bet somebody's going to want to be able to get in touch with you and find out more about this.
Yeah.
So, are you okay with that? Is if people want to know more about Jesse or want to talk to you, is how can they find you?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the best form would be email. So Jesse, Jesse, S as in Sam, and my last name Crawford, CRAWFORD @gmail.
Great. All right. Thank you. Thank you again, Jesse, for sharing today.
Absolutely, and again, thank you for having me. It's so amazing that this podcast is out there, and I can't wait for people to get some healing from it.
These stories are here for us to identify with. And if you are an NPE that would like to share your story, email npestories@gmail.com. You do not have to give any identifying information, but I'd like to hear from you. Subscribe to this podcast to hear more. Come heal with us.